Good morning everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. First up, I want to say thank you very much to all the responses to the most recent video. I am always amazed by the positivity that can end up in the comments from all my regular viewers and things like that, and I appreciate it a lot, so thank you very much for that. And I won't harp on it. So today's video, we're still going on food prep, so we're still continuing on the path. So these videos are generally from after my 6-week grocery haul. We try and make sure to show you exactly how all the produce is used in a way that is going to extend it for the 6 weeks as much as possible, stored on the shelves, and how we eat it and things like that. Today we had to get to the chicken. So the chicken is one of the things that has a few more days shelf life than the mince and things like that, so we try and drag that out a little bit to do that, use it, some of it, and then do the rest of it when we need to. So today we did all the chicken breasts that I had and the rest of the chicken thighs, and we cooked all them up and used and got them sorted so that they can go into the freezer to be used throughout the rest of the month. And then we made dinner with the fresh smoked chicken breast, because it's always nice to use at least one of them nice and hot and fresh out of the smoker. So we did that. So I've shared all of that. I mention it in the voiceover, but the rub recipe for the chicken breasts I forgot to film with this camera, but I used my phone to do a vertical one. So I'm still figuring out how to do shorts and stuff. The most recent one with the French onion soup mix didn't work real well because I put the subtitles in the wrong spot, so they were a bit covered up, so people struggle with that. So I'm going to try another one with this rub recipe, and I'm going to try and figure out the best spot to put the subtitles so that I can keep on sharing these recipes like that, these nice simple ones, and so I will do that in the next day or so as well, post this video. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next couple of days. Thanks guys. So chicken. First thing we're going to deal with is the chicken breasts. What we like to do with the chicken breasts is we like to put a rub on them and then smoke them. Now I use a rub that's heavy on the sugar content because I like the way that it creates liquid while they're smoking and sort of keeps the breasts really moist, because that's the biggest problem with cooking breasts, is that they can get really dry. So with the breast we like to use a sugar-based rub, and we like to use it in the smoker. I didn't film making the rub here, but I did film it vertically on my phone, so I'll do a short with the recipe in it because I failed a bit at the French onion dip one with where I put the subtitles, so I need to figure that out, and I'll do a new one for the rub but with the subtitles of the recipe a little bit better placed. So first thing we do with the breast is we make the rub up and then we coat them all. So I make sure to coat the tops, the bottoms, and inside on the tenderloin and things like that, and then they get loaded onto the trays for the smoker. My smoker is a master-built smoker. It has 4 racks. Each rack can fit one Costco tray of breasts, so about the 2.5 kilo of breasts on it. So we filled all 4 trays. I didn't show much here of how we use the smoker or anything else, but I have shown it before, and I will need to show it again because I do get asked all the time. But it's a dual fuel smoker, gas and wood. So we started off with the gas, we tend to put wood in it, and then we assess how it needs to go with the temperature from that point forward. I put a temperature probe in the bottom tray that I'm cooking, and then as that hits temperature, I move the probe up tray by tray by tray until the top one is cooked as well. We also had to do the thighs, so I still had 2 trays of thighs left. So I cut them up, and I cut them into strips and then in half again, so they're in sort of little squares, because that's its most versatile usage for us, but it also cooks nice and quick as well. I tend to marinate the chicken as well, so I cut it all up and I stuck it into 2 bowls so that I could have 2 different marinades on it for this particular occasion. Sometimes I go all out there and do some Asian flavored things and stuff like that, but most of the time we just stick to the basics because I don't know how I'm going to use it. So I want it to have some flavor, but I don't want it to be a flavor that could potentially overpower whatever dish I'm putting it in or anything like that. So if I cut it up in a nice small size and put a fairly basic marinade on it, then I can use it however I want. So I slice them all up nice and evenly so they'll cook nice and evenly, and that I can slice them up further, smaller if I want later, but I can also use them at that size if I want to as well. And then I marinate them. So this particular bowls that I marinated here, I used the end of the sugar rub from the breasts because I had a little bit left and I don't want to waste it, so I tossed that in one of them, and some cowboy candy because we use that with just about everything. It has that lovely acidity to it, but also the sweetness and the bit of heat. We really enjoy cowboy candy for this sort of purpose here. Then I had some jars of the Louisiana rub that came in the hamper. I've got probably 4 or 5 little jars of this, and I keep on forgetting I've got it. So it's a fairly standard sort of rub. It's got a slight bit of heat, some smoked paprika, a little bit of thyme, things like that. It's quite pleasant, but I just forget that I've got it and need to use it. So I decided to use that with this particular batch, and I added just a little bit of olive oil so that I could massage that through the chicken nice and easily. The other bowl, I did my standard sort of a marinade. We did the cowboy candy, smoked paprika, mustard powder, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, that sort of thing. Just a very standard, for me, a very standard sort of a marinade. And then I would make sure that I massage that into all the pieces so that it's nice and well covered. I do like to cover this and stick it in the fridge for a couple of hours just to permeate it properly, and then I will cook it all off. So we tend to cook it all off in the cast iron pans, and the cowboy candy lends it a little bit of caramelization, which is nice, and then we just cook it off in batches until it's cooked and pull it off, and then we store it. So the beauty of storing the meat in a way that is cooked is that you can pull it out of the fridge and stick it in some warm water for 10 minutes and then stick it straight in the pan and it's ready to go. If I store my chicken raw, then the amount of time required to safely defrost it and then cook it up, and if you cook from raw and it's not completely defrosted, unless you're doing it in a pressure cooker and things like that, it's just not very nice. You want to remember to pull it out the day before, and then you've got to make sure you use it and things like that. Whereas if I cook it all up, not only does it defrost slightly better for our usages, but it means that it can go in the fridge for a couple of days too. So, it comes up to its best before date, and then I got to cook it off. So I cook it all off, but then it can go in the fridge for another couple of days before it has to be dealt with as well. So that means we've got cold chicken meat to use for the next couple of days, however we want to use it as well. And then we vacuum seal it up and store it in the freezer. So I tend to vacuum seal it up in 500 gram lots, and then we use that for whatever we're using it for. So we do try and reduce our portions of meat because meat is expensive. So a 500 gram lot can be stretched for a meal for all 8 of us depending on the meal. So if we were doing like stir fry noodles with a whole lot of vegetables, you don't need a whole lot of chicken. So long as there's plenty of vegetables, plenty of noodles, then the chicken is just a boon. Or if I'm doing a dal, again, the dal is the star, a little bit of chicken's nice, not necessary. So 500 grams can do us in those sort of meals, but I will pull 2 packets out if we're doing something like sourdough wraps with coleslaw and chicken and mayo, because you use a fair bit more meat in that sort of a circumstance. So by doing it in the 500 gram lots, it means I can use 500 grams or I can use 2 of the 500 gram lots at a time, and it works out well for us. So our preference is always to cook it and then freeze it. I just find it better. It's also good for things like I pull it out the night before and it's cold meat for the next day. I use it on the top of pizzas, in quesadillas, all sorts of things. So it just works out really well for us in that sense. Because we'd just done the fresh smoked chicken breasts, and one of our favourite meals is a pesto pasta to do with fresh chicken, smoked chicken sliced thighs, the breasts, we decided to do that. I had a batch of sourdough pasta in the fridge that was fermenting that I had forgotten about a few days ago, so I quickly rolled that out, and Darryl and I had that with ours. There wasn't enough for the kids had spirals, but we had the sourdough for us. So my sourdough pasta is 400 grams of plain flour, 100 grams of starter, and 3 eggs, and a tiny bit of oil. And then I blend it in the Thermomix till it's little balls, and then it gets brought together and put in the fridge for at least 24 hours. And then after that 24 hours, it gets rolled out and hung, and then preferably it gets hung for a couple of hours to get a bit of a skin on it, so that then you can stick it in the freezer and it won't stick together. But you can cook it from fresh as well, which is what we did today. So I just used my KitchenAid, rolled it out, I hand cut it with a pastry cutter, and then I hang it, and then we cooked it up to have with dinner. So our favourite pasta dish, I've shown it here before, but our favourite pasta dish is a chicken pesto pasta. It's based off of a Jamie Oliver recipe. I think it's summer wonky pasta or something. He bought lasagna sheets and he cuts them wonky to use for the pasta for this. So we really like the dough, sort of the base of the sauce. So the base of the sauce is done with egg yolks. So you just put egg yolks in the bottom of a bowl, and then you add pesto, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of oil, and then whatever else. I'm pretty sure his recipe has parmesan in it, but we use a bit of nutritional yeast and mix that through. And when you mix that through with all the egg yolks, that's the base of your sauce. So all you have to do is then put your hot pasta in it. I did add some cowboy candy brine to Darryl and my pasta sauce. I don't think it did. I did with the kids, and I think that's the one that I'm showing here. But you whisk it all up together, and it ends up into a base sauce. And then once your pasta is cooked, when you add your pasta to your sauce, you don't want to drain the pasta because you want some pasta water with it as well. And then as you mix the pasta and the pasta water through the sauce, what happens is that it cooks the eggs and creates a creamy sauce. So if you've ever made a true carbonara type sauce, it's a similar sort of a concept. You don't cook the eggs in a pan, you cook the eggs with the heat of the pasta. So obviously this is best done with fresh eggs, and we have fresh eggs constantly, so that's fine. I used a kilo of spirals for the kids, so I used 6 egg yolks in their mix, and like half a cup of pesto, a drizzle of olive oil and drizzle of lemon juice, and I don't know, maybe an eighth to a quarter of a cup of nutritional yeast, and whisk that up with the 1 kilo of spirals, and then toss chicken through it. You can add whatever you want to it. It's really nice with corn, it's really nice with broccoli, all sorts of things. The kids like to eat it cold as well, so I make this big batch and they can have some cold the next day. I was a bit slack here and didn't add any veggies to it, but that's that was today's meal, and they really enjoyed it. And they, as I said, they eat it cold, which is really good because it means that if there is leftover, then it's going to get used the next day anyway. So they really enjoy that dish, and we use it with the sourdough pasta, exact same principle, except I do a smaller batch, so it's only like 3 egg yolks, 2 egg yolks maybe. And then the sourdough pasta is done the same way, cooked off and put hot into the sauce and mixed through, and it cooks it into this lovely creamy green sauce that coats the pasta well. If the pasta gets a bit tacky, just add a little bit more of your pasta water, and that will loosen the sauce right up. It has that bit of starch in it, that heat, and so it just makes it a nicer sort of a texture to it. But it is one of our favorites, so I highly recommend trying it, and I believe I've got a short here showing exactly how I made it as well, so I will try and remember to link that. But I'm not very good at remembering those things, so we will see how we go. So that was it today. It didn't seem like much, but cooking all that chicken and everything off is always time consuming, so I wanted to share that, and I will try and remember to go over the smoker details a bit better next time too, and I'll have that rub recipe up for you as well because we really enjoy it. So thank you again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.